Welcome back to DC Today. We want to take a deeper dive into this news coming out of the CDC and the FDA that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine should be paused. And joining us now from Pittsburgh is infectious disease doctor Amish Adalja. And doctor, thanks for being with us. First of all, do you concur with the decision by the FDA and the CDC that this Johnson & Johnson vaccine should be paused?
Not completely. I do not think that a blanket pause was warranted. I think it's important that we investigate these rare occurrences of blood clotting that have occurred. I think it's important that we try and communicate this to the general public and to healthcare providers to know how to recognize and treat this rare condition when it occurs. But I think there's a lot of downsides to this pause, which is only going to last a couple of days, but it's going to do a lot of damage because this is another bad headline for a good vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, that I think is going to increase vaccine hesitancy. And we know that people need to be vaccinated very quickly and that this vaccine is safe and efficacious for the vast majority of people that receive it.
I know where you are in Pittsburgh, and I also know how different communities react to different news. How do you think the Johnson & Johnson news is going to hit people in Pittsburgh, specifically because I was hearing from relatives that were saying, I don't want the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I want the Moderna. I want the Pfizer. Do you think now there's going to be hesitancy on the part of people that probably would be best served by the Johnson & Johnson vaccine?
Definitely. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a one-and-done, single-shot vaccine. It doesn't require very onerous storage, so this is something you can bring very close to people. You could have mobile vaccine clinics. You can take this to homeless shelters. You can take this to places where you don't have to worry about that second shot. In Pennsylvania specifically, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was what was given to all of our teachers. So this was a vaccine that had a lot of use and value in Pennsylvania and in Pittsburgh, and I do think that this is going to be something that kind of relegates it to a second-class status. When they unpause it, they're going to say, I heard all this bad stuff about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I don't want that. I want the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. And thankfully, we do have the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, but I think that this is a good vaccine that's going to become underutilized now because of all the bad press and the inability to really risk communicate about what is an extremely rare condition that occurred in women between the ages of 18 and 48, but yet merited a blanket pause. I think that this is, could have been handled a lot better. We didn't learn from the experience in Europe with what happened to the AstraZeneca vaccine there, where they basically did the same thing and now have created vaccine hesitancy around that vaccine.
Dr. Adalja, people like me make people like you get gray hair. And the reason we do so is we take numbers and we really play them up. 7 million doses have been administered of the J&J vaccine. But in this case, a Virginia woman has died and a Nebraska woman is in critical condition and 4 others have been sickened. We hear the experts saying that this is a pause, but is this not more than a major snag?
I think it's going to end up being more than just a pause. It's going to be a major snag. I think that this is something where we've got a very rare side effect, something that we saw with the AstraZeneca vaccine, and we have to take that risk, that very low risk, and juxtapose it or compare it to the risk of COVID-19. And we know that COVID-19 is killing people now, today. COVID-19 is spreading tens of thousands of cases across the United States, and we know the vaccine is the solution. So if you look at this in terms of the risk-benefit analysis, the vaccine is going to come out on top. Even with these tragic cases that occurred, I think it's something that has to be put into perspective, but people are not good at judging risk, and I think you're going to find people be overly cautious, and this is going to, like I said, add to vaccine hesitancy, and it's unfortunate, and this is something we really have to prepare for. When you give a vaccine to millions and millions of people, there are going to be extremely rare side effects that result in in bad outcomes in a very small number of people that you didn't see in a clinical trial because you went from tens of thousands of people to hundreds of millions of people. And we have to be prepared for that. And we have to be able to talk to the American public about these risks and what the benefit still is for these vaccines in the face of a pandemic.
And Dr. Adalja, before I let you go, leaders argue that they did it to make people feel safe. It's a Hobson's choice. Did they make people feel safer, or do you think that they hurt more than they helped?
They had the best of intentions, but I do think that this is going to hurt more than it helps. I hope that I'm wrong, but if you look at the polling data in Europe, after they did a very similar thing with AstraZeneca, they ended up increasing vaccine hesitancy for the AstraZeneca vaccine, and I think that's likely going to be the result here as well.
Dr. Amish Adalja in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of my favorite cities, to tell you the truth. I grew up not far from there. Dr. Adalja, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.